when you think about the fear-based aspect of Christian Zionism, it gets taken up to an 11 when it comes to Jewish-based Zionism, and we're seeing that right now in obviously Gaza and the West Bank. And Jen has been on this her own version of a crusade, if you will, since then, but it dates back way before then. We like to say we were way ahead of the curve on this several years in advance. And so when October 7th, 2023 happened, Jen put out like a formal statement on our behalf within a couple of days, basically dictating exactly what was going to happen. Only it's been a lot worse. And
right.
So what has been stated, which is, as Jen is still predicting, 2 million dead people in the desert, it looks like we're already 20% of the way there that we're aware of right now. A Harvard-linked study finds Israel disappeared nearly 400,000 Palestinians in Gaza, half of them children. A study published via the Harvard Dataverse reveals that Israel has disappeared at least that amount, in this case, 377,000 that can be verified since the start of its campaign against the Gaza Strip in 2023. So when you still have people in the media saying that it's about 50 or 60,000 dead, you still have people like Bernie Sanders going on Joe Rogan and saying that October 7th was one of the worst days in history and we killed 1,200 people and it's like, if even he's going out there and making that type of a statement, there's a reason why we are hypercritical of people like AOC and Bernie in particular, because they're supposed to know better. They're supposed to be the people that are supposed to be leading the charge against this. Instead, now all the pressure is going to be thrown on this 33-year-old kid, basically, in political terms, that has now been thrust into a position that I don't even think he has any clue what he's getting himself into as the potential mayor of New York City. And now he's got to watch his back because there's clearly going to be people that are going to try to kill him before the election. And so I get upset because we have been shouting this from the rooftops ever since it happened. And we're coming up on almost 2 years now. And it's only getting
discouraged. Do not be discouraged.
I'm not discouraged. I'm just angry.
No, we're just on a rage-o-meter. I was on 13 on the rage-o-meter today before we even came on here. But I have been saying this for a long time, that this is not going to end without 2.whatever million people dead in the desert. That's the only way this is. I mean, and the fact that people are disputing it. And by the way, let's say it was just 50,000 people. Really? We're gonna have that? Like that's where we're going with this discussion, is like how and if anybody, and this is now for me like really a line, anybody where the words come out of their mouth, Israel has a right to defend itself, you are dead to me. No one believes you. You're a grifter. Go away with that shit. Seriously.
Absolutely.
And that encompasses AOC and Bernie. And not only are they wrong in terms of the legal aspect of what they're saying, because they are, and they know it. See, that's the grift. They know that they're wrong. They know Israel does not have said right to defend itself. But anybody who's saying that, just go away.
Another thing that Israel is a master of is false flags.
It's coming.
ISIS, for example, that came about when world opinion was turning against Israel over the killing of 400 children in Gaza. And immediately, ISIS came about, beheading people and doing all of their mischief, destroying holy sites, Arabic holy sites and all of that stuff. That was bullshit. I'm sorry. That was bullshit. And we just had a Greek Orthodox church attacked in Syria just last week, I think, or the week before that. That was a false flag. Why? Tell me, why would Palestinians who are witnessing a change, a global change of opinion, why would they go out and murder some Christians at a church in Syria? They wouldn't. They just wouldn't. It's outrageous to think so. So who did it? Mossad, and the IDF. Come on.
I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it here because I don't think Iran is done yet. And I think we're not done with them. And I think that's what we're waiting on.
Right.
We're waiting on that.
Well, it's already been brought to our attention through social media that evidently there's been an uncovering of a terrorist, or that the Israelis are basically trying to create a false flag here in the States through a so-called terrorist cell and then pin it on Iran and drag us into another conflict.
I would not be surprised. Not at all.
Well, we made a post earlier about the fact that you've got the Donald coming out today saying that you should drop all the charges against Netanyahu. And it's like, why would you be saying that? The only thing that comes to mind is, number one, you're clearly blackmailed with the Epstein files. I mean, at this point, how much more obvious can you possibly make it? And maybe Trump is concerned that maybe he might be charged with war crimes or something. I don't know. But the actions that are still being taken by so many people is deeply concerning. But I also would like to believe that a lot of the American people are kind of getting hip to these kinds of so-called, well, you call them false flags, but they're just excuses to prolong the war machine. And so much of what, you know, the biblical aspect, obviously on the evangelical side, is very dangerous because there are people that believe that the rapture is coming in their lifetime. And that's a very dangerous, irrational, as Jen likes to say, with reason. There is no reason when you're dealing with people.
And here's the thing. If the rapture was going to happen, it's happening in Ireland. It's not going to happen where you think it's going to happen. I was where it's going to happen. I just saw the place. I assure you, it's way prettier right there. Just saying.
Oh, is that what it's based on?
Okay. I'm just putting that out there. You know, it's a better place for a rapture. I felt infinitely more rapturous in that environment. So I'm just saying.
Well, the thing that I believe that we all have to be doing conscientiously is making sure that people understand just how absolutely not only psychotic this entire religious movement is, but I'm gonna show two sides of it now. As I mentioned, I need people to see just who Kenneth Copeland is. So
Is this very cringy, Kayse? Are you like putting on your like?
If it's the clip I'm thinking of, it's nightmare fuel for real.
Okay, but this should be something that should remind people of it. Everyone is just focused on Jewish Zionism. Trust me, Christian Zionism is just as bad, and here's why.
I'm a rich Jew backed by a richer Jew.
He made that airplane so cheap for me, I couldn't help but buy it.
This is Kenneth Copeland, perhaps the scariest and richest pastor in the world.
Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
Known for his $300 million net worth, $7 million mansion, and his 3 private jets, with his very own airstrip behind his house, he's managed to become one of the wealthiest pastors America has ever seen. And
I mean, he looks like a demon. Like, let's just.
He looks like he deserves that tax write-off. Yes, I could see why we would have his organization be tax exempt.
Go to your church to find out why. The first thing I noticed was Kenneth Copeland's store, selling everything you could think of and the Bible somewhere. But as the sermon began, I learned that a lot of this church's message was to basically claim blessings from God, and if you had enough faith, your life would be blessed. But only if you've contributed your tithes to help your favorite pastor Kenneth maintain his lavish lifestyle.
See, that's to me, as somebody who's, again, as an atheist, all religion to me, it's kind of, I don't believe it, right? But once you're sitting there and you're making it about a profit motive, how that's not sort of like a red flag for people that that's what always amazed me.
We used to, Kenneth Copeland tickles me. We used to say that his speaking in tongues was, he buy a Honda, she buy a Honda.
Yeah. I don't miss speaking in tongues.
Did you do that? Like Kayse?
Oh, yeah. No, I believed full throttle. Everything they told me, I just swallowed it down. So, yeah, I had my own personal language with God, he, him pronouns. I sure did. But, and I think that one of the sinister aspects of, as you were saying, a psychotic movement here, that has nothing to do with the internal personal transformation of everyday people that I do want to recognize. And, I always have to make all of these caveats as like a very outspoken atheist. Like, I think there is very real what you might call spiritual transformations happening all of the time. And I hate to sound like, this isn't about attacking everyday Christians. This is about particularly going after the leaders and particularly being critical and critical of the ideologies and the results of those ideologies. So that's why it's like the result of evangelical Christianity, when it's intertwined with Christian Zionism, we're going to have to be critical of that. We're going to have to take some steps back and ask why so much violence is being done in the name of a non-violent person. I was thinking in my head mythological person.
No, it works.
Of Jesus Christ, right? So all of this violence being done apparently in this guy's name, that I am going to be critical of that, and also remember that, the everyday Christians, in a lot of ways, I don't hate them. I pity them. I used to be one of the Kenneth Copeland followers, you know what I mean? And it is disheartening. And also I think one of the most sinister aspects of it is just how self-fulfilling all of the end time prophecies end up being, because people in my personal life who believe fully in their hearts that they are going to be raptured in their lifetime, they don't feel like they have to worry about climate change, just as one example, and so it's very self-fulfilling, and that becomes a very harmful result of this ideology.
Hence why they can just drill baby drill all throughout the
drill baby drill.
That's a big part. Drill baby drill, really great idea.
You're so good at all of the impressions. Bernie, Trump, great.
He does Bill Clinton too.
Oh, listen, when a pretty blonde shows up on the show, I definitely have to I'm sorry, it's gotta be me.
You just can't help it.
I think it's very important that we do not lose sight, because we did a clip about the fact that AOC is a total political opportunist. That's not to say that she doesn't have good ideas or that she can rally people, but people are so afraid, especially progressives who are completely caught up in their feelings. Like, they are so afraid of any type of constructive criticism of the people in question. When Mahmoud Khalil was released from the detention center in Louisiana the other day, AOC had no effing business being there with him. Like, none. You want to make a mess, you want to put a shout out, that's fine. It's the same thing with Zoran. But she has to be in the center because, again, politics is politics. And for them, this is a career. And they still don't understand that there's levels on the spectrum in terms of how much of a douchebag you can be in terms of not actually being there to help people. Now, I love Bernie. I always have, and I always will. But he is a Zionist in his own way. There is no getting around it, because as ZEI Squirrel, which is one of the absolute best accounts on all of Twitter, if you don't follow it, you definitely should. 20 months into an ongoing genocide, Bernie Sanders went on Joe Rogan to tell everyone that Israel has the right to defend itself. Hamas are evil terrorists who began the war by killing 1,200 people, including rape, soldiers.
Again with the rape narrative. Again with the rape narrative.
Israel, Hannibal, directive killings of their own civilians, and then also doing the Zionist genocide laundering calculus that like 29/11s for us, which of course he never does for Palestinians in Gaza. And keep in mind, this is after the report was released that almost 400,000 Palestinians are missing. And then blaming everything on Netanyahu's government to deflect all blame from Israel, even though over 95% of the Jewish Israeli population fully backs the genocide. I mean, there's a reason why the Likud dominates the state of Israel. Like Jen says, they've pushed any semblance of normal Israelis have been pushed out of the country now.
Long time ago.
This is the most prominent leftist politician in the U.S., and he is spouting genocidal Zionist propaganda that his own base and the majority of the American public do not believe. That is how much of a depraved, fanatical, all right, it is what it is. Blah, 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 Bernie Sanders is and always has been. I'm not going to agree fully with that statement. However, when you are so fully indoctrinated into Jewish Zionism that you completely devalue every other aspect of your political ideology, you get what you deserve. Colin, do you have the brief clip of Bernie and Joe Rogan, which I think is like attached to this?
You just got to rub the salt in the wounds, right? You got to
I
show
need
us
people to hear it. I don't need people to be telling me.
I'm so disgusted.
Yeah, but that's people need to know this, just like people who don't like the fact that they're coming on our clip right now about AOC and Zoran, and they don't like the fact that we're criticizing AOC. Tough shit.
Oh, we have someone else in there saying Rogan sucks. We're not here to tout Rogan. Nobody cares. Like we're
it's like people need to. They still want to talk about how much they don't like Joe Rogan. I'm like, I don't give a shit if you don't like Joe Rogan. Like, it doesn't matter. This is what matters.
Israel was attacked by Hamas, and Hamas is a terrible terrorist organization. They killed 1,200 people, which in a small country like Israel is a lot of people. Terrible, terrible attack. It's a war crime. Israel had a right, in my view, to defend itself.
That's it right there. Game over. Done. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Go away. I can't.
Still talking it up.
I just can't.
Still talking it up. He won't say it. And I don't care what the reason is that he won't say it. If you won't say it, then don't say that. Just don't say anything. Here's the thing. And I really want to say this very clearly for people like Bernie and AOC, and not that this ever gets them. Take the AIPAC money. Seriously. It's like, at least take the money if you're going to be their whore. I don't understand this at all. You're doing their bidding and not taking the money. There's nothing noble about that. Seriously, both of you. I want everyone in the chat and everyone who is seeing our channel now that, God willing, will continue, if God exists, continues to grow. I just have to say that. Understand this. And understand this about Bernie, and understand this about anybody else that you think you need to be touting in politics right now. Because as we said, the change we seek is going to come from outside electoral politics. The idea that there is a Harvard study, not a Gaza ministry from Hamas or some bullshit, the most highly reputable university in the United States has released a report saying that at a minimum, 377,000 Palestinians are now dead in Gaza. You would think that something like that would trigger a joint press conference between Bernie and AOC saying that we cannot stand idly by as Israel perpetuates a genocide on the Palestinians anymore. But they won't even do that. They won't even acknowledge that that report came out. But you want to sit on a podcast that's going to be seen by over 10 million people potentially and talk about how Hamas is a bad organization and they killed 1,200 people. There is no excuse for this. So stop with the fucking teams. Like I've had enough of it. Like,
what's it like, Kayse, in Christian Zionist communities in terms of how do they have the exact same talking points?
Yeah, so you can imagine that where I'm at, the discourse surrounding pretty much any conversation about any political conversation at all just is spewed propaganda. Like and we've talked about this before about how actually, Peter, you were talking about this earlier about the education system specifically in the more rural communities. And even here in Oklahoma, Ryan Walters, I actually pulled it up for you guys. Yeah, June 24th, a couple days ago, issued a memo on the conflict of Israel and Iran, right? So it's like specifically being mandated how to frame these geopolitical questions in a sense that does not encourage critical thinking. It does not encourage any research or questioning or whatever. The public school system in Oklahoma is now officially having this mandated propaganda to be taught in classrooms. So the general discourse here, it's just spewing exactly what the people on top say is really what it is.
Well, they just passed something. I think Texas, I forwarded it to you, Peter.
Yes.
It's now required in public schools in Texas for them all to have the 10 Commandments in them.
Oh, yeah. That's part of it. The creationism has taken over. It's wild, and even in private school, like obviously it's a little bit different, but I remember saluting the American flag, the Christian flag, and the Bible every single day. Like it's indoctrination on both a political and religious nature. And I get a lot of feedback from people in my community saying, why are you talking about both religion and politics? And I'm like, it's because that's where I am. It's because that is the environment that is around the majority of this country geographically, not necessarily population wise, but it's pretty wild. And it's really disheartening. As Terry was saying earlier, it does remind us like, okay, if we have this awareness and we can connect with people, at least in, Florida or whatever, these other states, other people who might have similar understandings and awareness, we at least have that. And it is kind of on us to continue pushing forward and moving the needle as much as we can in the face of this gray cloud of lack of critical thinking.